Mudras as symbols of the universe, the spiritual import of Hindu dance, form an essence in Frithjof Shoun's writings and its direct analogy and application to the sacred gestures of Hindu dance. I would like to thank you for this opportunity of participating in the Green Night Multimedia. It's a pleasure for me to be part of this inspiring series. And I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Sucheta Sapekar in India, from whom I have learned the precious meanings of the viniyogas that I will explain today. The outline of my presentation is as follows. I will read selected passage from chapter 4 concerning art forms in art in the Transcendent Unit of Religion, page 61 in the edition Quest book, Chennai, India 2005. I propose to illustrate the main ideas of the text with the help of the dramatic art of ancient India, bringing to evidence the relationship between intellection and form in the sacred gestures of Hindu dance. I will present a brief introduction of some concepts of traditional Hindu dance and retrace the origin of these gestures coming from the ancient Vedic rituals. I will elucidate the distinction between mudras in yoga tradition and hastas in dance tradition. I will comment and illustrate the text with the viniyogas, which are the meanings given to the various sacred gestures, the hastas. I have chosen significant viniyogas, which elaborates metaphysical principle and religious offerings. I will perform then along with the recitation of the shlokas explaining its meanings. Indian classical dance, a visual expression of Hindu thought. Art in India is deeply connected with its philosophy, the rich heritage of Hindu tradition. Therefore, dance is a visual expression of Hindu thought, expressed through a visual form. It directly conveys metaphysics and the religious aspects of life through the science of gestures, the mudras. These sacred gestures provide an immediate understanding of the religious ethos of India. Modern society lacks epitomes and normative models to uplift mankind. The technological invasion, with its impact of an abnormal mentality divorced from the sense of the sacred, influences mankind, leading men to destructive behaviors in earth. Ancient drama in India was meant to provide models and prototypes to society. Indian theatre is thus a mirror of the life of good people, those who live in excellence. In India, drama is known as Natya Veda, the fifth Veda, conceived by Lord Brahma, the creator, to teach righteousness, dharma, to society. On earth, sage Bharata claimed to have received the knowledge of theatre by integrating speech from the Rig Veda, music from the Sama Veda, acting from the Yajur Veda, and emotions from the Atharva Veda. As the Vedas were strictly reserved to the Brahmins, a fifth Veda was created to convey the Vedic teachings to one and all, in a simple way, through the science of gestures, recreating thus good behavior with an aesthetical, ethical significance. Drama was accepted as the total art form that unites dancing, acting, poetry, music, fine arts, human values, and practically all other concerns of life, recreating life itself in order to sustain and nourish a heavenly world, a laudika, through the aesthetic experience, rasa. Mudras in the Hindu holy worship. In the religious domain, the execution of the paradigmatic Vedic sacrifice may itself be interpreted as a hieratic form of theater. In the same order, Bharata's theater claimed to be modeled on the originary unifying principle of the solemn Vedic sacrifice. The symbolic gestures in dance tradition are known as coming directly from the ancient Vedic rituals when dance was an integral part of the holy worship in temples. The Vedic hymns and mantras, or mystical syllables, form the foundation of the Hindu holy worship. Traditionally, the recitation of hymns and mantras are sometimes accompanied by specific hand gestures, which are called mudras. Mudra is a mystic gesture of the hand symbolizing the power of action. The word mudra denotes a seal. It puts a finishing touch, revealing a specific meaning connected to the mantra. Here, there is an affinity between sacred gesture and sacred sound, create a link between body and mind. In the dance tradition, mudras are called hastas. According to the ancient scripture Abhinaya Darpana, authored by Nandikeshvara, there are 28 single gestures of a hand called a sayukta hasta, and 23 united gestures called sayukta hasta. This combination of hand gestures may denote gods and goddess, for example, Brahma, the creator, who holds the rosary, and the four Vedas. He is the creator, so all creation springs from the Vedas. We show Lord Vishnu, the protector, and we show Lord Shiva, the destroyer. He holds the fire. Sometimes he's depicted with the deer or with the dhamaru, which is a small drum counting time, the time of manifestation and the destruction of the manifestation. It's the Lord Shiva. We can show the goddess Sarasvati, who is the patron of arts. She holds an instrument, musical instrument, a veena. She plays the veena. And she is the consort of Lord Brahma, because he is the creator, and she is the goddess of intellect, vach, speech. All creation comes from sound. We can show goddess Lakshmi holding two lotus on her hands, and we can show goddess Parvati, who is the substratum of the world. She is Paraprakriti. So we show her womb being the symbol of the whole universe. So we can show also the different castes, like the Brahmanas, which are recognized by the sacred thread on the left shoulders. We can show the Kshatriyas carrying a bow. We can show the planets, the sky, the moon, the sun, the rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, the animals, the deer, the peacock, the serpent, and so on. The various meanings of these gestures will be explored through the viniyogas at the end of this presentation. What is viniyoga? Viniyoga, as taught in Abhinaya Darpana, provides the meanings that translate the poetic universe of mythology as well as philosophical thoughts into symbolical hand gestures. Some of the gestures are intrinsically connected with ritualistic actions found in pujas, the sacred offerings, revealing the religious background of Hinduism. Others describes the wonders of creation, the beauty of nature, and the universal emotions experienced by human beings. The relationship between form and essence, or body action, and intellection reveals the power of these sacred gestures as a means of propitiating intellectual contemplation. These symbolic gestures and postures may represent particular states of consciousness, the bhavas, which are directly conveyed through a visual and auditory means, actualizing these same states of higher consciousness in the minds of the devotees, stimulating thus religious worship and providing support for spiritual contemplation. To elucidate the relationship of form and essence in Shoun's writing in connection with the sacred gestures of Hindu dance, I have chosen the chapter 4 concerning forms in art, the Transcendent Unity of Religion, page 61. I read, "If the importance of form is to be understood, it's necessary to appreciate the fact that it is the sensible form that symbolically corresponds most directly to the intellect, by reason of the inverse analogy connecting the principle and manifested orders." Footnote, art, said Saint Thomas d'Aquin, is associated with knowledge. In consequence of this analogy, the highest realities are most clearly manifested in their remotest reflections, namely in the sensible or material order, and herein lies the deepest meanings of the proverb, extremes meet. To which one might add that it is for this same reason that revelation descended not only in the souls of the prophets, but also in their bodies, which presupposed their physical perfection. René Guénon, Les Deux Nuits, Études traditionnelles, April and May 1939, in speaking of Laylat al-Qadr, the night of the descent, Tanzil of the Quran, points out that this night, according to Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi's commentary, is identified with the actual body of the Prophet. What is particularly important to note is the fact that the revelation is received not in the mind, but in the body of the being who is commissioned to express the principle. And the Word was made flesh, says the Gospel, flesh and not mind. And this is but another way of expressing under the form proper to Christian tradition the reality that is represented by Laylat al-Qadr in the Islamic tradition. So here the human body assumes the revelation of the Logos. No? In the Islamic tradition, the night of the descent, the revelation is identified with the body of the Prophet. He is the incarnation of divine perfection. Whereas in Christian tradition, the Logos becomes flesh in the person of Jesus Christ. In Hindu tradition, we have the iconographic gods and goddesses, which are the various expressions of Parabrahma, the nirguna aspect of reality. Nirguna without qualities, without attributes. On the other hand, we have the deities, and their bodies are the saguna aspect of reality with qualities, representing several divine attributes. Each deity reveals a particular aspect of the divinity by means of specific sacred gestures. I resume the text. Sensible forms, therefore, correspond with exactness to intellections, and it is for this reason that traditional art has rules that applies the cosmic laws and universal principles to the domain of forms, and that, beneath their more general outward aspect, reveal the style of the civilization under consideration. This style, in its turn, rendering explicit the form of the intellectuality of that civilization. One of the aspects of the formal intellectuality of Hinduism can be well represented through the concept of Nataraja, the cosmic dancer who creates the whole universe while dancing. The various gestures of creation are thus symbols of metaphysical prototypes which recreates life ritualistically through the science of dramatic art. I quote Aitareya Brahmana, all works of art on earth are an imitation of the art of the Devas. So let's see how we apply form and essence in the symbolic gestures of Hindu dance. This same principle, extremes meet, is found in the ritualistic gestures of devotion, which brings to the body intellections of prototypes made form in a specific gestural language, identifying the idea with what it signifies. For example, we can show a bud of lotus and a blooming lotus. We have a blooming lotus. No? So we have an analogy, and a perfect analogy of the idea of a lotus and the form itself. I quote Shoun, forms, intellections, the whole of traditional art is found upon this correspondence. This is on aesthetics and symbolism in art and nature. And the reflection of the supraformal in the formal is not the formless, but on the contrary, strict form. The supraformal is incarnated in a form that is at once logical and generous, hence in beauty, spiritual perspective and human facts. Springing from metaphysics, these gestures are symbolical while being descriptive of an ontological reality. Metaphysical knowledge, being in its essence supra-individual and universal, proceeds from pure intelligence, which is direct and not discursive. Language is not perfectly apt to convey essence, which are supraformal. However, the human body, being a direct vehicle for the spirit, ontologically participates in supraformal realities through the sacred geometry of the body, manifesting formal attitudes that are powerful means to convey in a direct and not discursive manner the very essence of archetypes, man being the logos. I quote in French, les extrêmes se touchent. Les suprasensibles se matérialisant dans une forme particulière pour exprimer les sens suprasensibles de la forme. Extremes meet. Now, to illustrate these ideas in a direct and not discursive manner, I will recite and perform some viniyogas to illustrate visually the relationship between form and essence. The first hasta in this ancient text, and which precedes all the ritualistic dance, is called Anjali, salutation. Both hands are held together in front of the heart. While worshipping God, they create a temple in the human body, with the hands above the head, like a vimana or shikara, the summit of the Hindu temple. The body becomes a sacred space for the performance of this divine art. We held Anjali in front of the face to honor the Guru, and in front of the heart for salutation to the learned ones the Brahmins, which brings the idea also that this art form has an esoteric purpose. It's also directed for the learned ones we have in this first salutation. I recite the viniyoga, Anjali Hasta Viniyoga. Devata Guru Vipranam Namaskari Shvanut Kramat Karye Shiro Mukho Urasto Viniyoganjali Buddhahi. I comment, through these sacred gestures, the practitioner becomes the form of the formless, realizing the identity between the knower and the known in the unity of his being. Identifying the knower with what he knows, the human body becomes an instrument for self-knowledge. The performance of these gestures may lead to higher states of consciousness that they symbolize, as the human body here is a channel connecting the intellective idea to the manifested form it assumes in a process of bodily intellectual alchemy. The body assumes diagrams which reveal the very essence of archetypes, translating them in a theological approach related to the revealed tradition. Metaphysical knowledge becomes theological knowledge, revealing the esoteric nature of religion, manifested through a religious symbolism. I quote Shoun, forms allow a direct and plastic assimilation of the truths or realities of the spirit. The geometry of the symbol is steeped in beauty, which in turn, in its own way, is also a symbol. The perfect form is that in which truth is incarnate in the rigor of the symbolic formulation and in the purity and intelligence of the style. Spiritual perspectives and human facts. Very beautiful.